Greetings, 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 dear ones. It is Friday, the 10th of April, and we are here on the East Coast in a most beautiful spring. The weather is perfect. Everything is blossoming, beginning to blossom and bloom, including the cherry blossoms, my rosebud. I'll post some pictures later. Both my crab apples, the lilac is just beginning, and I think I enjoy the just beginning almost as much, if not more, than the full bloom. And certainly that goes along with today's talk and our deep dive of potentials and possibilities. I think that, excuse me, sorry, I had to grab my notes. I moved my desk to the more physics and outer space type altar in my house. There's so many. And we're including a lot of physics today and cosmology, so that felt right. I think the first thing that set off this week's alchemical mixture was certainly monitoring and watching the images coming back and the from the Artemis 2 venture, and the astronauts speaking and sharing what they were experiencing as well as what they were working on, because there was a constant back and forth with them and the narrator, or the person explaining. She's asking them questions about what they were doing at any given point. It was very, very exciting. I love the NASA missions and all that has come back from the various telescopes and the information I receive kind of regularly from either NASA or other sources that tap into the cutting edge information. And I also posted that some people were experiencing a lot of energetic discomfort, dizziness, just barely able to keep their eyes open, some just a lot of different symptoms. And when I tapped in and tuned in, it was interesting because despite the fact that we're all aware of and probably do moon practices or practices with the moon on a fairly regular basis, there was something about the transmission of moon energy that I have never experienced quite this powerfully, quite this clearly, and how can I describe it? In a very, very new way. It was very, very purposeful, and a lot of friends, colleagues, we were talking back and forth and what they were experiencing and what they were noticing as far as physical symptoms, as far as anything else was going on, and as far as any energetics they were observing. And for me, everything immediately alleviated when the Artemis 2 rocket spaceship actually entered the dark side of the moon. And I was so curious and puzzled by this. Why all of a sudden the symptoms just seemed to melt away or stop. It was almost like relief. And when I tapped in and asked, it had a great deal to do with the dark side of this evolutionary process, the dark side within each of us, And it was almost, we have never actually gotten images and information from the dark side of the moon previously. This has been an extraordinary mission for many different reasons, but certainly in that aspect. And I think it coincides so perfectly with the darkness that we are seeing in human nature coming out in leaders, in situations, in wars, in actions, in inactions by those that are running a destructive program this particular lifetime. Authoritarian leaders, tyrants, those that are in power in many places, heads of corporations. It's just those with trillions of dollars that are really embodying. They are not just revealing the dark side, because revealing the dark side is not enough. It is not unless and until we actually are compelled by our experience, by what's being poked and triggered and catalyzed within us, that we have the opportunity to explore those same aspects. And make no mistake, everything that you are seeing outside is within you. It is to a lesser degree. You maybe don't have the power to destroy in the way that others do, but we do so on a regular basis. There was talk of obliterating an entire civilization. Well, I would ask, do you stop and feel into the entire civilization when you are destroying the insects or the ants or whatever it is around your home and property? Do you stop to feel into and connect with the all the little critters and microbes and everything that's going on right now, particularly in the spring? Or do you just want a nice, neat lawn and property and are doing spring cleanup at the cost of civilizations or beings on that property? When we go to build a building, the clear cutting, that is the same thing. It is completely and utterly destroying an entire community. For, I'll try to post here, but there was a beautiful article, science research, that actually was able to record and measure plants speaking to one another. Now, many of you may have heard before or have read the beautiful book by the German scientist, The Hidden Life of Trees. I think that's what it's called. I'll try to correct. If it's not correct, I will post it here. Where the discovery and other more recent experiments and proof that trees not only communicate with one another, but they communicate with the entire ecosystem that they are in, and sending nutrients or asking that other plants and mushrooms and what have you send nutrients where needed, to warn other trees that there is a blight coming or an insect infestation. We are amidst an entire network, web, lattice work in which everything is interconnected, interwoven, interrelated, and interdependent. And I've been teaching many years of, my concern with how many different pins we're pulling from this web, how many different points at which it intersects we are destroying. So then the thread is discontinued, and the entire system that that particular animal, that particular ecosystem, that particular plant species or trees are removed, and how that throws off the entire web. And ultimately, it affects us humans. The earth will constantly regenerate herself, will reinvent herself, will recuperate, but it is our relationship, our companionship, our built-in interdependent, cooperative, collaborative communion with the earth that is in danger at this point. And without that, we can't live. She'll be fine. So one of the things that so powerfully came from this particular Artemis 2 mission was, I would say, the astronauts themselves. One of which, again, I posted, I think, here on Facebook and maybe other social media, an interview or the astronaut speaking. One of which referenced the commander, as a matter of fact, referenced his indigenous mentors, and how the moon is referred to as Grandmother Moon, and that it is seen as the protector and the overseer of the waters of our planet. And we're well aware of how the moon affects the tides, etc. But I don't know that we are as aware recently of how directly we are affected by the moon and its position and its energy and its direct effects upon us. Because remember, we are primarily water. So the theme or the spirit of water is very present in our crucible today, not only in its relationship with the moon, but it's been coming forward in all its forms this week, in rivers, in lakes today, in other bodies of water. So again, when the astronauts, I think it was Christina Koch, and she was observing, they've had the most amazing views of the moon, of the earth, of the eclipse of that's occurring as they moved, of the earth. And what she was struck by was the blackness around the earth. That there's this beautiful jewel, of course, but amidst so much blackness. And that brought in or coincided with other energetics that I was working with colleagues this week. And that was, again, kind of the energies within the dark, within dark matter, within black holes themselves. And this energy is more powerful in many ways than that which is visible, palpable, and seen by our five senses. Just as our subconscious, which sits in shadow, in darkness simply because it is unknown to us, until such time as we are able to explore very, very deeply and come into relationship with our subconscious and our unconscious. And that's, the primary work of the process that I do with clients, is bringing forward that which is unknown within you, that which is in your subconscious and unconscious, that is actually the determinants or drivers of your actions and choices and thoughts and beliefs. And that as this that is held in the dark is then brought forward to know thyself and can be transmuted, then it allows your true nature to come to the fore. It is no longer hidden. It is no longer in shadow. It is no longer in darkness to you. And in order to do that, that takes a great deal of work. I have known colleagues that have been at this for decades, and there's always this beautiful new piece to be discovered. Even if it's something that you've looked at 1,000 times, there are always deeper levels. And as that happens, one is, yes, transmuting and transfiguring the identities that we align with. And as those identities crumble or fall away or are dismantled, then the connection to the depth of you, which also is in a different form of dark, is then accessible, is then part of your reality. It is not a question of controlling your behavior or managing, but instead your reality is completely different. The way you interact with, the way you relate to the world, to others, to circumstances is completely different because you are completely different. And so we go through this process of dissolving, dismantling these identities to come to a place of empty. And to be empty, to be truly empty is an amazing thing. It is also can be a very disconcerting thing, because unless we have accessed enough of our true nature, of our true self, of the master within, then that emptiness can, cause confusion and fear. Which is why when I'm referring to the depth of within that I'm talking about, we have default mechanisms within our system to not go in there alone. That's why shamans have always existed. That's why I do what I do, is to walk people in, getting past the defense system, to these places within that are actually black holes. And once we get past that event horizon and you go down and in and through that black hole of what appears to be an issue or a wound, you come back out completely new. So when these identities are dissolved, dismantled, we then find ourselves in that empty place, in that it's not a void. And this week I was working with another group of an energetic discipline that is based in ancient Hindu magic and is referred to today as the form of magic in this teaching. It's called Vortex. And the person presenting had recently encountered a new energetic that she labeled the Phoenix. And for her, there were 3 phases. One was this burning away process with a fire, burning away that which, in my words, you are not, and coming to what she referred to as the void or a void, and then ultimately coming through to the other side, wherein I'm just looking back at my notes, I don't want to misquote her process, and she, again, it was going through that, to the growth process. And for me, that's, dismantling the patterns that we have been confined by because we chose them, and then realigning with our true nature, as I said a minute ago. And this allows for not just growth, but freedom. It allows for a freedom from fears that we have lived by. It allows for freedom to realize and live and feel every day the truth of who you are, and this deep, deep, deep union with the all. Because that web that I referred to, the network, the lattice work, is in and through everything. And I know we say that, but to actually live that, to know that, to feel that the table that you're eating on is part of that one as well. And so, there would be care and concern and connection with that table, or the food that you're eating, or the air that you're breathing, or the critters on your property or around your home. It's a very, very different way of living. And so as she was speaking about this stage of the void, I experienced a vacuum. And that vacuum, though, is not the absence of, nor is it an actual suction, nor is it something that has a border. It is a vast emptiness, if you will, wherein all potential and all possibilities lie. And it is up to us to choose which ones we want, for us individually, and which potentials or possibilities we want for us collectively. And fascinatingly, of course, but if you've listened to any of my work or worked with me individually, you will know that this is applied alchemy. This is what I teach. You're working with something, you're discovering something, you're exploring something, and boom, it presents itself in the physical. This is that back and forth. This is you and the you in all your many forms. This is you being assisted with your team of non-physical beings. This is you and the universe in cooperation with your own unique, only you exploration. And so, of course, as I'm encountering vacuum, a little piece comes across my desk from on Facebook from the Known Untold, and I don't know if I can pull it up while the video is on, but it is, I will post it, and it says quantum vacuum fluctuations reveal that empty space is never truly empty, but is instead filled with a constant bubbling sea of energy. According to the uncertainty principle, pairs of virtual particles and antiparticles are spontaneously created and annihilated in trillionths of a second throughout the entire untold universe. a phenomenon that creates a measurable vacuum energy, in quotes, and suggests that the very fabric of space time is a dynamic, high energy field rather than a silent, static void. So this is this is what came across my desk as I'm experiencing and working with a colleague in this vacuum where there was constant deathing, rebirthing, deathing, rebirthing, deathing, rebirthing. Almost it was immeasurable, but at the same time sitting within this energetic of untold potentials and possibilities. And then later on in the week, I was listening to Nassim Haramein, a physicist, who was speaking about mini black holes and that protons are actually mini black holes where energy never degrades, it is perpetual. And this is based on a lot of mathematics, um, but it's revealing to us that the subatomic world and the cosmological world are reflective of one another, which we all know in spiritual circles of the micro and the macro, right? The individual and the one within the individual. So we're coming to see that this bringing together of the most vast with our individual internal vastness allows for a constant deathing and rebirthing of pieces of us, of areas we've explored this lifetime, other lifetimes, coming forward to assist us in whatever project, whatever soul project we set out for this particular lifetime. And for me, this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, is that instead of us going outside to explore as the NASA mission did, and it's wonderful that it does, but what I teach is about internal exploration, the universe within you. And that's what we do in sessions, so that you are in a completely different reality, knowing that you create. I mean, we can talk about it, we read about it, we, you know, discuss it, but that's very, very different than speaking something, expressing a desire, whether it's written or verbal, both of which are very, very powerful. Verbal is probably even more so. And within a matter of hours or a day, that wish is right in front of you. And yet, this goes far beyond the old processes of manifestation or attraction. It is now in creating, and it's very, very powerful because it's so fast. We're in a process of evolution that is occurring insanely fast, as never before in the universe. So, what we speak is potential for coming into matter. And again, more and more this week, one of the articles that came to me from another science journal was the measurement of matter in two places and the work with particles. It's just breathtaking how much knowledge we do have and the potential for that knowledge, that scientific, engineering, technological knowledge that will allow everything on our planet that is a problem or a challenge right now to be righted, to be fixed, to be reborn in a completely different way. There are innumerable means of eliminating microplastics, despite the fact that on a daily basis we are finding them more and more and more. What do microplastics come from? Microplastics come from plastics which comes from fossil fuels. It is a dead end road. Renewables are bringing certain countries in Europe right now. Again, another article. These are not articles from odd personal news sources. These are large, major news sources from around the world. And I'm sorry, again, I will try to post it here. I think it was Poland. I'm pretty sure it was Poland. Literally had a negative financial burden of energy this year because they did bet on renewables and their economy is no longer extending to pay for energy. Now, this is not just this one country. Bolivia did it, Spain at one point last year, year and a half ago. It is happening. But we have this push right now to go backwards, to base ourselves in the old way of resources that can be owned and controlled. And we have choice. And the more you have of you, the more you know you, the more you have of you. The more you have of you, the more freedom you have. The more freedom you have, the more ease with which you make choices. Whether it's in actions, whether it's in purchases, whether it's in thoughts and wishes and dreams, because they are being fulfilled very, very quickly. This is why I started, again, another group, the course of the alchemical magical creation, because we are at that stage. It is speak the words, there it is. We are feeling horribly helpless and angry and upset at what's going on, seemingly out of our control and powerless to do anything and trapped in this particular situation, this nation. And yet we are not. It is all pushing us to transmute and transfigure the lower dimensional aspects of human nature so that this is no longer. It need not be any longer. So I also thought it very interesting. I'm sorry, my phone is over there, which has a lot of these resources on them so that I could cite the site where they come from, but I will again try to post them. That when we're clearer and cleaner, we can be more precise and impeccable and pure in those wishes. Otherwise, those desires and wishes and wants are coming from places that are still in distortion, that are still connected to patterns within us in darkness or in shadow. And a great quote, one of the few TV shows that I record and later watch is The Voice. I enjoy the music and the talent. And CeeLo Green was one of the advisors this week, and he stated, one of the coaches were suggesting something to one of the singers, and the singer said, "Oh yes, I had thought about that." And CeeLo Green responded, "Then that thought becomes a thing, and that thing becomes the real estate upon which you are standing." In other words, real estate. That is the real state of your being then. So it's a great quote. Again, I'll try to put it here in more accurate words. But we're going to be going into this vacuum, into this in-between place where things are burned away prior to that, and now you're in this vast vacuum where all possibility and all potentials exist, and within which you're going to put your desires, your dreams, your wishes today. Just wanted to check and see if there's anything else. Just this, movement from, we always think that, we're terrible down here and this on this planet. We have to go through all of this suffering and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to be able to make it to a higher place. When in fact, we came down, if you will, into this physical for the benefits, for the experiential way in which we can discover more of us and expand as a soul, and thereby expand the one itself, the source, if you will. And that, when we go into these deeper places within, whether in a theta state or other altered states, space and time are certainly not like they are in this physical dimensional place we live in, or level we live in. And that space and time can be a point or a location rather than a thing in itself, which when we move from a perspective that space and time are a thing, then it becomes much more fluid, and our entire way of perceiving ourselves and the universe can be different. And so we have, the space-time within us, and the protons within us, and the black holes within us. For me, we each are in and of ourselves a galaxy with all of what makes up that galaxy, all of our different existences, whether in a physical form, whether in a humanoid form, whether in a gaseous form, all that is incorporated in your particular galaxy is what you've already explored. That's why you are here as a master of this universe, because you have done such a huge amount of soul exploration that this was the moment, this was the place, this was the opportunity that you wanted to be able to kind of, accelerate, to multiply exponentially your experience through an evolutionary leap like never before. All of those energetics being the potentials, all of the speed being the potential that otherwise would take you, let's say, lifetimes. You can do it in simply one. So we have this past, present, future construct that doesn't really exist beyond the limitations of this dimension. And so tachyons appeared this week as well. And a tachyon is a hypothetical particle that actually moves faster than the speed of light. And, sorry, I do need my notes for that one. But it allows for, and of course it was a very popular means or story hook for Star Trek. Tachyons are used many times in many ways, and it just so happened this week that the first and second, or there's a two-part Star Trek Next Generation where the captain is moving through time, bouncing back and forth between past, present, and future, and he ultimately orders a tachyon pulse to be sent into what appears to be a time-space anomaly. And that ultimately this could result in potentially result in humans never even being formed on Earth, because this was a time space anomaly where opposites seem to be true. So, what we're seeing that we are unhappy about, angry about, hurt about, grieved about, frustrated about, powerless about, are really just doorways, avenues through which we can go deeply within and create, not just think about, not just pray about, not just set intention, because intention is very much still based in will and mind, but wishing, desires, dreams come from deep within. And so you have the potential when you see something. I posted this again earlier this week of a lot of different headlines. Some of them were wonderful news, and some of them were horrific. And so I invited everyone, and I invite you to do this every day, because there are certainly many different horrible situations being brought to the fore, horrible circumstances of destruction and pain and suffering and infliction of the worst that we can think of as humans, which is why it's here to be changed. And to instead sit in the exact opposite of that. For example, one of the things that came across my desk that so struck me deeply, because it's a very special location on the planet to me, is Chaco Canyon in the Southwest. It's very, very sacred. It is so full of energetics and keys for the future. Energetic keys, combinations of information, sourcing from ancient wisdom within the universe itself. And you know, the attempt this week to gut an area just adjacent to this sacred land, not to mention the fact that it would be devastating to the tribes related to that area and connected to and oversee and protect and have done for thousands of years. But when you disrupt land in that way, you're basically, it's like tearing up books. You're tearing up sources of information, sources of solutions. And so what I invited and what I sat in was the sensation, the feel, the experience of a time when there is such respect and recognition and valuing and honoring and holding as sacred not only lands that were known to be sacred by a particular civilization, but more so to recognize the land itself, that land itself, when dug into, when blown up, when devastated by wiping clean the ecosystems on it, is as horrific a genocide as that which was referred to this week by the president of this country. One thing does not have any more value than another. Darwinism led us to believe that we are superior, that we are have control over those entities throughout history that were in power, continue to perpetuate the idea that control over dominance and possession is the key to life. And that was the way of this very small percentage of people for a very, very, very long time. Those in power, kings, emperors, popes, whoever, conquerors it was. And now, in this reunion of man with the earth and man with the moon and man with the waters and man with all that is on and around and beyond this planet, allows for mutual cooperation, collaboration, communication, connection, so that that land is then giving us, that land is revealing to us information, gifts, plants are giving medicine. There is so much here. And so I sat very, very deeply in this sensation. It can't just be a thought, it has to be a sensation. And that's what we'll be, working with in the alchemical magical creation course, is how do you now create when all of these old modes of manifesting and attracting and intention are defunct. And so it is with this amount of feeling. And so I felt into that way in which people then walked on the lands of Chaco Canyon and the surrounding, and the reverence and respect and care for and communion and back and forth information, intuitive connection and receiving. And so that's the reality that I am choosing to bring in. I'm choosing to design. I am choosing to create. And so I encourage you today, as we're sitting in this vacuum, in this vastness of space within you and surrounding you, that is so full of potentials and possibilities beyond even imagining. And that space and time as we know it are not fixated. They are not things in and of themselves, but merely locations to which we can arrive in different states of being. Be they to create, be they to sensate and experience your union with the one, the source, the all that is, as you, in you, through you. And we have the beautiful, as I said, water. The spirit of water is here this week, even more so in its collaboration and partnership with the moon, bringing forward the many ancestors, not only in indigenous cultures, but in origin cultures around the world that recognized and worked with deities, mythological figures, mythological beings who oversaw and protected the waters, without which we will not live. As well, we have, as I said, fabulous protons and all the energy within those perpetual energy. And we have the amazing dark side, the dark side of the moon, representing, revealing, representing, not revealing, representing and bringing forward the dark side of man, of humanity. That which is hidden, that which is in shadow, that which is unknown, that which is not seen, more often than not wished to be seen. We have the amazing energy of the fire of the phoenix, the fire of the sun, which so amazingly played a part in our ability to view and take images of the moon and the sun this week through the Artemis 2 exploration, and the fire of the phoenix that completely consumes the phoenix for it to be birthed completely anew. We're still so beautifully within the newness, the mystery of life springing forth in this season of growth. How no matter what devastating circumstances occur, winter, floods, fires, there is still in nature a birthing anew. And the beautiful mystery, despite the science knowledge that we have, there is still the very mystery of life. And how that will constantly bring deathing birth, deathing birth, deathing birth, whether of a huge star system or an aspect of an identity that no longer is true for us. The beautiful animal teacher that came forth this week is the gorilla. Multiple times it appeared in multiple sources, or through multiple sources. And so I've worked with and sat with gorilla this week and what it represents. And it represents raw strength and gentle leadership and deep family loyalty, whether it's one's individual family, one's neighborhood family, one's country family, or the very family of man itself. Further brings forward honorable authority grounded wisdom, embodied wisdom, and the ability to balance immense power with kindness. So beautifully coming forward to answer the exact opposite of what we're seeing in the world leaders, and that further represents the power used to protect rather than to dominate. And I invite you to allow that energy not only to be within our crucible today, but to bring that close to you, close into you, and allow Gorilla to be with you and guide you and teach you and imbue you with that gentle leadership in whatever form, whether it's in your business, in your family, in your community, in your spiritual groups. And to feel into power used to protect rather than to dominate. And a balance of immense power with kindness. Invite, allow, collaborate with Gorilla energy and your desire, your wish, your dream, hopefully, of this being the characteristics, the ways of new leadership in the world. And so we are sitting amidst this incredible container with all of the energetics of this week, what happened on the global stage, what happened on the national stage, what happened on your local stage. There's people doing so many things to change the world. You have choice. Just feel yourself sinking down and in. For going up and out disconnects and creates separation of you, to you, from you. And instead, I invite you to just keep allowing your body, your energy field, your wider self, which is your soul self, all of your helpers, all of the energetics that are here, everything that's gone on this past week is in the mix, for it all is of and as the one. The moment we judge, the moment we determine something to be bad and wanted away, we are creating separation. So when we do not take every opportunity when we're triggered that as a means of getting to know that which is in darkness, in shadow within us, then we are perpetuating separation. So I'm going to invite in even more powerfully that vacuum as often space is referred to, the vacuum of space. But in this particular instance, it is an energetic within which birthing, deathing, destruction, creation is a constant and humanly immeasurably fast, not that you need get caught up in that, but simply sit in the energetic of complete and utter potential and possibility. No thought is needed, no action is needed, quite the contrary. At this moment, simply allow yourself to feel the vastness within the internal space of you, your inner verse. Allowing the energetics of the alchemical mix and blending and tossing and movement that is occurring within the crucible to swirl around you, to move and interconnect and interplay and interrelate. For as you feel the movement and the swirling and twirling and bending and exchanging of energies within, just know that it is working with and in and through you, that you are a vital and significant ingredient, if you will, in this vast vacuum of potentials and possibilities. And dropping down even another octave or level, so that the energetic mixture and blending and you in the exact right position within this alchemical crucible allows for optimum transmission to you of this vast vacuum where all possibilities, all potentials are available to you, not merely exist, but are available to you. Your wildest dreams, for in this confluence of factors and energies and evolutionary processes, you need not know how. One cannot know how this will all occur. The mechanics, the mathematics, the building, but you can design what you desire to feel, what you desire to experience, what you desire your world to be. Not so much in details, for that gums up the process, but more so in what you want to feel. As I gave in the example earlier, the joy and deep heart bursting happiness of seeing people honor and have reverence and respect and care for land and sacred sites around the planet. The true ecstasy at people interacting and learning how to receive information, help, guidance, support from land and trees and rocks and insects. And a fully collaborative, cooperative, and so I invite you to take one thing that you have seen or observed this week in regard to man and his way of being with others on this planet, whether they be human, animal, plant, trees, insect, water, oceans, and feel what it is like when that particular issue, occurrence, situation is the way you desire it to be. If war is concerning you, then feel into the prosperity and exchange of information and cooperation and fair trade and all that would occur when war is no longer. Feel your life where peace is the only way it's been for years. And again, remember, you need not effort, you cannot effort, but you can sensate what it feels like as this particular circumstance, aspect of the world, those around you, whatever you're choosing to work with, erase that to bring forward. And what you personally will feel like when it is the way you imagine or dream it can be. again, not the details as much as the sensations within you. Allow all this blending of energetics within the alchemical crucible, within those that wanted to be here and could not be present, those that may be watching live, those that will be listening at some point in the future. All is within the mix. For there is no fixated linear time. In this vacuum space of all possibilities and all potentials. And when and as your system guides you, leads you, as always, you're welcome to stay in this deep place of alchemy. Or should you choose or need to come back to a more physical experience of linearity and the confines of this third dimensional reality, please allow your system to lead you at your pace, your rhythm, your way. Move only when and as your body tells you to. Open your eyes only when they tell you that it is time. Why we're over here with the physics and science section altar. We have a symbol of time as we perceive it, as we watch it pass, but that is not necessarily the case. But for now, I must recognize that the time is ending here with you today. And please reach out. We are going to be doing a lot of very intense processes in the Alchemical Magical Creation course so that you can access more of you and more purely, more impeccably, more cleanly, more purely work with these desires and wishes and dreams and watch them being created. This isn't something that you have to make happen. The only work you have to do is in getting to know thyself and be able to bring more of you forward, both humanly and beyond humanly. So please reach out if you'd like to register. The intro was this past Wednesday. The actual start of the course is next week on the 15th. And I am, because we are in this just rapidly evolving process of creation, I am going to discount the fees so that more people can participate and not feel so helpless and hopeless and powerless, because we are not. So I will post that as well. In the meantime, as always, know that it is with the greatest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence here on the planet. Until next time.